I'm very interested to find out how well my homemade biochar did against a very popular commercial store-bought brand in Royal Oak. The question's been posed many times, can you cook with biochar? Answer, 100% yes. The real question is which is going to perform better? Biochar made with hardwood or biochar made with softwood? To determine which one of these comes out on top, I'm going to be evaluating them based on temperature, burn time, ash production, and overall flavor. This is what I'll be using for the experiment. This is the white oak hardwood. This is Doug Fir. It's a softwood. Both of these are biochar, but only one of them is considered lump charcoal. What makes this lump charcoal is that it's specifically used for cooking, and it's made out of hardwood. Oak, maple, or hickory are commonly used. Biochar, on the other hand, can be made out of many different organic materials and can be used in a multitude of applications. It's created in a reduced oxygen atmosphere, and it's had all of the volatile organic compounds pushed out of this material, and effectively all that you have left is a fully carbonized piece of organic material. This can either be crushed down, inoculated, and used as a soil amendment, or it can be used for cooking. I'm going to be comparing this against something that's typically not used for cooking, which is the Doug Fir, the softwood. I'm going to utilize this commercially produced lump charcoal to run a side-by-side comparison against the char that I've created in my biochar retort. Let me briefly demonstrate how it is that I prepared this material for this experiment. This is white oak, and I'm going to be splitting these pieces down even further and utilizing my chop saw. This has all been reduced down to a fairly consistent size, and I don't have enough of this material to run it by itself, so it's going to be in the same retort batch as some Doug Fir, which will also be used in this experiment. I'm going to separate that material out and use it to cook up some burgers. It's held its original shape and texture and appearance. The only thing that's different is just a reduction in volume and weight. I've created a video detailing the specifics of that weight loss and volume reduction, and I'll put a link in the description. Since this is my smallest, I'm going to use this as the one that I fill up, and then I'm going to take that amount and use it to fill the other two remaining. I've assembled 3 Weber style barbecues, and the one to my right, your left, is the control. That's the Royal Oak lump charcoal. This is my homemade biochar / lump charcoal. This is the white oak. And down here, running in 3rd position, we've got Doug Fir. Before we get this started, I'm going to make a quick prediction. I don't believe that there will be a dramatic difference in taste between any of these. I don't believe that there will be a dramatic difference in temperature with any of these. I do, however, think that there's going to be a significant amount of ash produced from this Doug Fir, and there'll be a lot less as far as burn time. I suspect these two will come in fairly close and consistent, but I'm very interested to find out how well my homemade biochar did against a very popular commercial store-bought brand in Royal Oak. Let's get underway.
I don't think that there was any big difference between them. For the most part, they tasted the same to me.
Yeah, I think that there would be absolutely no discernible difference if you were putting this in a burger. I'm using different starting chimneys, so that's caused this to give me a very inconclusive result. So what I'm going to have to do is scrap this entire test and redo the entire thing using only one starting chimney. Disappointing. Yesterday I was able to get a pretty accurate assessment of the flavor of the meat that we cooked up and the ash production, but I wound up with some very inconsistent results as it relates to temperature and burn time. I decided to rerun the test to see if I could replicate the results. I bought a new bag of Royal Oak charcoal, and I'll be assessing the time it takes to get to temperature, maximum temperature, and burn time. What I'm going to do is use this fire starter. It seems to be the most efficient. I should get a very consistent result doing each test individually. Decided to start with the Royal Oak to establish a baseline for comparison. I'm going to allow this to remain in here for 15 minutes, at which time I'm going to dump out char and then take temperature readings every 10-minute intervals. 20 minutes. $424. 395. 1 hour and 30 minutes. And let me take a temperature and see where we are. I'm going to use this as the measurement for all of the other chars. We're at 364.2. "20 minutes, and we are at 356 degrees. 40 minutes on the Doug Fir. 357.4. 1 hour on the Doug Fir, and temperatures are down to 262.9. So I'm going to call this one where it's at. I'm sure this is probably pretty well spent. Here's some white oak that I just made in the retort this afternoon in preparation for this final test. Let's see how well it does against Royal Oak. "20 minutes in, we're at 450.3. White oak, 464.1. 1 hour, 434.8. Okay, I'm going to end the test here. We're at 1 hour and 30 minutes, and we still have 429 degrees. I think there's still enough heat here to cook up some dinner. One hour and 45 minutes. Let's take a quick surface temp. 318 degrees. And let's take a look at those steaks. The results of this experiment are in, and although they are somewhat subjective, I think that they're pretty conclusive, and I feel comfortable making a pronouncement. Let me start with the ash production. The two hardwoods came in essentially tied. The softwood, the Doug Fir, was the clear loser in this, which was really what was expected. There was quite a bit of ash produced, and then there was also a lot of big flaky white chunks that would become airborne. Next, as it relates to flavor, I think the flavor would only really be noticeable with a longer duration, cooking something more than a steak or a burger. If you're cooking something a little longer term, you're going to get that smoky flavor that's going to be coming off of the Royal Oak. One thing that I want to point out is the fact that the char that I've created has no impurities in it. And that's one of the reasons why once it comes up to temperature, there's no smoke that's coming off of that material. Conversely, you're still getting smoke that's being produced off the Royal Oak. I think it's important to note that the flavor test was very subjective. Both Rebecca and I didn't notice any real difference. Bear in mind, we were cooking steak and we were cooking hamburger, which is a very short duration burn. Had that been a longer burn, we might have been able to notice more of the oaken flavor or the more of the smoke being imparted from the Royal Oak. With respect to temperature and burn time, it was not a surprise at all that Doug Fir would come in last place. But what was a surprise was the result coming in at the top spot, which was the homemade biochar made out of white oak. The Royal Oak lump charcoal reached a peak temperature of 424 degrees, and it did so at the 20-minute mark. 20 minutes later, the white oak biochar reached its peak temperature at 464 degrees. It's a difference of 40 degrees Fahrenheit. I ended the test at 90 minutes, and the royal oak had a temperature at that time of 364 degrees, and the white oak biochar had a temperature of 429 degrees, a difference of 65 degrees Fahrenheit. I hope this has provided some insight as to some of the uses and versatility of biochar. If you're interested in learning more about that, I've created a video, Everything That You Need to Know in 7 minutes. Please consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.